Hello everyone, thank you so much. I'm Emily, I'm the Director of the Public Acts Programme at the National Theatre. We create extraordinary acts of theatre and community across the UK, celebrating theatre as a powerful form of community building. I'm new to this whole slide business, so please give me grace as I go for this. Here we go. Right. I am incredibly honoured to be here. You can imagine my surprise when I received an email out of the blue inviting me to come to Seoul to talk about what I do. You can imagine how my surprise quadrupled when I joined the Zoom call to meet the team and Professor Kim Jong-sok arrived, proudly holding up a programme from Pericles, our first public act show, which you can see here, which I directed in 2018. We only ran that show for 3 nights. There are a very limited number of those programs that exist. And here was one of them, being waved at me excitedly by a professor on the other side of the world who had come to see our show and cared enough about it to keep the program safe for 6 years. I was struck by many feelings in that moment: connection, solidarity, and pride. I'm here today because Professor Kim shares our belief in theatre as a force for change. That moment of seeing him with our programme reflects the single most important thing that our work exists to do: to connect people through a shared sense of what is possible and what matters in the world. So, I've been asked today to do a few things: to introduce the programme, what we do, how we do it, and why we do it, and to then focus on 3 specific areas. Firstly, working in community settings. Secondly, integrating professional and non-professional performers. And thirdly, working with existing canonical works and adapting those versus the creation of original devised shows. So firstly, what do we do? Well, the National Theatre is a big concrete building in London. To live up to the word national, we have to work hand in hand with people on the front line in communities across the country. There are a number of nationwide programs the National runs through its learning department, engaging with schools, youth groups, and regional theatres. But Public Acts is the only program which specifically targets community organisations and works intergenerationally with people of all ages. Wherever we work, we partner with a theatre and a network of community organisations local to them, who represent people of all ages, genders, ethnicities, backgrounds, and lived experiences. Once we have our partners on board, the work is carried out in 2 phases. The first phase is a series of bespoke workshop programmes delivered in each community partner, like the one you can see here. We pair an associate artist with every group to deliver workshops over 2 terms, exploring theatre skills which will further the mission of the organisation. We might, for example, lead a dance programme in a community centre who exists to promote physical well-being among its older members. By working in the community settings, we try to avoid barriers of access. We want to build up to the point where people feel confident and willing to come to the theatre. But some may never have left their postcode before, let alone been to a theatre. So we start by going to them. The second phase of the work is an epic, large-scale theatre production, which unites everyone from across our different community groups on the main stage of our theatre partner, together with professional artists. A full creative team, a professional band, and a small number of professional actors. Everyone who has taken part in our workshop programme is invited to be part of the show. We also include a few local cameo groups, such as a gospel choir or a specialist dance crew, who reflect the cultural breadth of wherever we are. In this photo, you can see the wonderful South Wales Gay Men's Chorus, a cameo choir from our most recent show. So that's the 2 parts. A workshop programme and a massive show. I love how deceptively simple it sounds when you say it like that. After each show, we move into a legacy phase of work, hosting events where the ever-expanding community across the country is invited to reconnect for reunions, workshops, Christmas quizzes, theatre trips, and so on. So that's what we do. In terms of how we do it, our work is values-led, defined by our core values of openness, generosity, and courage. Catch up with myself. Our companies are always intergenerational and fully inclusive. We work in partnership because we know the work is better when we're learning from each other. We work responsively because we know that no community is the same and that things are always moving. We work with high artistic standards because we believe that ambition handled right is a dignifying force. We believe in theatre making as a form of community building. Through the shared purpose of making a show together, we create connections across the city between individuals and organisations, building sense of place, pride and belonging as a route to community cohesion and resilience. I'm now going to give a very brief potted history of our shows so far. Starting in 2017 to 2018, we partner with 7 founding community organisations across London and create a new musical adaptation of Shakespeare's Pericles with 225 people aged 4 to 84. Luckily for me, Professor Kim is in the audience and likes what he sees. In 2019, we deliver our second production, another adaptation of Shakespeare's As You Like It, this time with 160 community members at the Queen's Theatre Hornchurch, a theatre on the outskirts of London. From 2020 to 2022, we spent 3 years working in Doncaster, a post-industrial town in the north of England, with 5 community partners in an extended period of time due to the COVID pandemic. We build up to another new musical adaptation, this time of Brecht's Caucasian Chalk Circle, reimagined for a company of 120. In 2023, we create a new version of the Odyssey, told in 5 episodes. The first 4 episodes are made by local artists and communities in 4 different parts of the country. The first in Stoke-on-Trent, the second in Doncaster, the third in Trowbridge in the southwest of the country, and the 4th in Sunderland in the northeast. The 5th and final episode is performed back at the National Theatre with a company of 160 people drawn from all over these different places. That's directed by me, and we're back on the Olivier stage where we did Pericles. Alongside the episodes, we tour the galley, a bamboo ship representing Odysseus' journey, which pops up as a public installation in marketplaces, town squares, parks, and even the sea. Which brings us to 2024, and we are currently devising our next show, Public Record, with the community of Sunderland in the northeast of England. The premise for the show is that a community is coming together to record an album as a way of documenting their past, their present, and their future. It's a live concept album, a portrait of a city told through its people, its music, and its dance moves. It's the first time we've devised a show on this scale rather than adapt an existing text. So far, so good, but more on this later. In terms of our impact, why we do what we do, we think about it in 4 concentric circles. In the middle, we've got people, the individuals that we're working with, and I include our staff members in that. Then we've got our organisations, our theatre and community partners, sector impact in terms of both the third sector and the cultural sector, and all of that housed under this banner of community, and we have impact locally, nationally, and as lovely moments like this represent internationally as well. Our brilliant researcher, Professor Helen Nicholson, summarised our impact across these different spheres in her 2023 report on public acts. She wrote that public acts brought measurable benefits to people, places, practices, and partnerships. It helped people live creatively, measurably improving health and well-being. It strengthened local pride and connections to place, creating more resilient and integrated communities. It enabled theatres to improve local opportunities, and it strengthened the cultural fabric of the nation in challenging and uncertain times in the creative industries. She writes, Public Acts is a change-making programme. Our recommendation is that high-quality, intergenerational, community-focused programmes are valued as a central part of each theatre's repertoire. Public Acts has a significant role to play in leading a national movement for change where theatres can become spaces for everybody. At this point, I'm going to cheat and defer to a video clip, which I think will convey better than I could in words the spirit of what we're all about. This clip shows 5 of our members reflecting at the end of our Odyssey project last year on what the journey has meant to them. I hope this works.
So now we are entering the National Theatre. It's an hour and 30 minutes to go until the actual performance. And my heart is beating non-stop.
The recovery service can only bring you so far. You recover to enjoy life. To be part of that massive community, put out a message of resilience and hope. That was the fix I needed.
My mum, she always said to me when I was younger, you will definitely find a place where you fit one day. And I thought that was my job, but I actually think it's the theatre. When I'm on the stage, it's the first time that I have ever done something that's just solely for me. On the same year that my son Harry went into care, this is the same year that we lost my mum. So that year just broke all of us. But I would honestly say, being on the stage, I feel like I've actually started to heal.
I feel like I'm part of some very big, huge revolution. Seriously. Just going all out there is okay to fail. It's just okay to live through life. And I'm part of the revolution. I feel special. I really do feel special. I do.
You meet a lot of people in your life, but you will find eventually those people that you really connect with.
The way my mind's shaped now, it feels almost like, not indestructible, but like the future I want for myself is like, it's bright, huge bright. Like I want to be
the best.
Yeah, but not even the best, but I just want to be top tier, and I want these men to be top tier with me.
Top tier. And it's a full circle moment because I remember being on like the 243, which crosses Waterloo Bridge, and you can see the National Theatre, and always thinking that I'm going to perform there one day. So
Come on. You're there
it's
now,
coming
bro.
into reality. Trust.
Now you're inside the National Theatre.
Inside.
On the Olivier stage,
Inside.
which just happens to be the biggest stage
Inside.
in the National Theatre.
Select.
I think we're all still, and I'm definitely in that phase still of just going, I can't believe we did it. We did it.
Hopefully that has given you a sense of what we're all about. I turn now to the first of our 3 areas of focus, working within community settings. By going out into the community, we reach people who have found themselves on the margins of society and culture for many different reasons, be that homelessness, their immigration journey, or a battle with addiction, for example. Some of our key learnings about working within community settings over the years have been, number 1, always say yes to a cup of tea. We take a 360-degree approach to partnership. The more we understand the context of an organization, the more sensitive and impactful our partnership can be. We have as many cups of tea as we can and get to know as many people as possible. Staff are invited to take part in workshops and perform in the show. This longitudinal engagement with the whole culture of an organization can really affect how that organization thinks and the legacy of the work after we leave. 2, people show up for people. We build a culture of care and consistency. We know that people will show up for a person more than they'll show up for an idea. We find the most experienced artists we can to deliver our workshops. These people may be a community member's first ever encounter with a creative space. It's a big responsibility. We ask our associates to assume nothing except that everyone is a VIP and to always sweat the small stuff. Knowing people's names and pronunciations before they enter the room, arranging food in the break that everybody loves, and respecting people's time by starting and ending promptly. These details can make all the difference. Number 3, we don't know what we don't know. We hold the boundaries of our expertise. We ask our community partner staff to be responsible for pastoral support, drawing on their knowledge of each participant. Whether helping to organise transport or emailing their employer to arrange shift times around rehearsals, our community partner staff are the guardians of their members' experience. After the project ends, our community partners fulfil a crucial role in providing ongoing support. Members are not abandoned, but continue to attend activities at the community organisations. And number 4, small steps make the long journey. Many of our members have to overcome significant barriers to progress from never having been to the theatre before to performing on stage in front of thousands of people wearing a sparkly costume. We create tangible milestones to slowly bridge the psychological, practical gaps between each person and the theatre. For example, every group is taken on a free theatre trip to see a show in the first term, and we host an end-of-term party at the end of the second term of workshops, where we bring members from across the different groups together for the first time at the theatre. These steps allow everyone to see the bigger picture and to understand their place and their value within it. Now we come to our second area of focus, working with professional and non-professional performers. This relates to the broader question of artistic excellence and the relationship between process and product. At the start of my career, I was often asked whether I cared more about process or product, but for me, the two are inseparable. Process must be given weight, but not at the expense of the product, and vice versa. How we work, our way of being together, is the art. It is as important that we remember to celebrate Sandra's 70th birthday or Nick getting his all clear from cancer, as it is to crack on and learn the choreography for the finale. To quote Lear de Bessonet, the founder of Public Works in New York, the program on which ours is based, there are always two acts of creation at play in a public acts rehearsal room: the creation of a show and the creation of a model society. Within the process and culture of care, we create capacity for rigor, mastery, hard work, and yes, an excellent product, because feelings of safety and belonging lead to feelings of tenacity and possibility. People discover new potential and see themselves differently as a result. As one of our members said, "I will always want more from my life because I will always know that I did this." Which brings me to the first of 3 key reasons why we integrate professional performers into our shows. Firstly, put simply, it makes the work better. We want to make amazing things happen, anchored by skilled professionals at the top of their game who can lead from within on stage. It's not just the shared goal that binds us, it's the difficulty of that goal and the feeling of pride when we achieve it. The inclusion of professional performers is by no means the only way we reach towards a high-quality show, but especially when working in such technically demanding spaces like the National Theatre, it's a key one. Secondly, raising with professionals raises everyone's game. I used to believe that working with professional actors would dilute the impact of non-professionals on stage and undermine their talents, making them feel less than. But the opposite is true. When you have someone who has never performed before playing a scene with a famous actor they recognise from their favourite TV show, like Sharon Duncan Brewster up here, the star of hit TV show Doctor Who, it makes that community member feel more than. The feeling of being up to that task is aspirational and inspirational. And thirdly, it creates impact within the professional sector. It's always the professional actors who tell me that they've learned the most, that working with community members has allowed them to reconnect with the purity and purpose of their craft. These professionals go back into the industry as ambassadors. They raise the profile of what we do, giving it status, recognition, and class. When recruiting our professionals, it's worth saying that we talk explicitly about our values and expectations. There is no space for ego in a public acts room. Our actors need to work with flexibility, generosity, and patience. Personality alignment is important, and it pays to be transparent from the get-go. And finally, we come to our third area of focus, the question of source material and the difference between adapting existing canonical work and creating original devised work. Here are some questions we ask when looking for source material, whether adapted or devised. What are the universal themes that many people of various ages, identities, and life experiences can find connections with? What makes it of here and of now? How do you see the company playing a key role in the storytelling? Why is this story better told because and not in spite of it being told by a community company? What opportunities are there for large-scale images, mass movement, choral singing, and human spectacle? Prior to founding Public Acts, I mainly directed and devised participatory work. The big difference for me with Public Acts was the question of scale. The pieces I'd made before had a maximum of 30 to 50 people in them. But how do you co-create a piece with hundreds of people which genuinely reflects their multiplicity? When we commit to building a company that represents a whole community, we commit to the fact that our members will not all share the same political or personal views. How do we honour this difference whilst creating something that feels unified and coherent? I've seen too many bad examples of shows which claim to speak for an entire community, but feel like they are ultimately a vehicle for single, often white, often liberal playwrights' edited views of what those community members are saying, which doesn't reflect the multiplicity I experience on stage. Our current show, Public Record, is music and movement-led, with sparse moments of poetic text and autobiography woven through. We are trying to make sure that the form we're using creates space for everyone, and we're loving what we're finding so far. We are also piloting a new show-making model with Public Record, structuring the show in such a way that it can be reimagined by multiple communities in different locations. We are creating the first iteration in Sunderland, and following this, a blueprint script will be published with guidance for companies to create their own versions across the UK and, we hope, across the world one day. The blueprint will provide a confident structure whilst holding space to celebrate place and speak to local identity. There is much more I could say on this topic, so I've chosen to just highlight to finish 3 of the things I love most about working with adaptation and devised work. But I'm really happy to pick up with anyone who'd love to go into more detail afterwards. I have a lot to say on this subject. So 3 things we love about working with adaptation. Firstly, giving ownership. Giving someone the chance to master Shakespeare, to learn the technique for delivering complex iambic pentameter, can radically change how someone sees themselves and their capabilities, and how we see those stories within the wider cultural context. A public demonstration that everyone has a right to canonical works of national historical importance carries great democratizing power. Secondly, everyone has a chance to be other. In a fictional story where no one is playing themselves, everyone can find their own connection to the material without it ever being imposed upon them. When working with companies with such a wide range of lived experience, and in many cases trauma, it can be very important and healthy that no one is being asked to bring anything of themselves into the space unless they want to. And thirdly, the power of reimagining an old story for a new time. Our industry is constantly seeking to breathe new life into the old canon. Our communities and local artists bring their direct and wide-ranging lived experience to bear, and the results are contemporary and electric. And in parallel, 3 things we love about working with devising. Firstly, responsiveness, the freedom to mould the work around the community, responding full-heartedly to their stories, gives them authorship over the material that creates a different sense of pride, connection, and artistry. Secondly, leading with music and movement, as opposed to a central text, can expand artistic possibilities. Music and dance can often be the most immediate, accessible, and joyful ways for people to engage with performance. And as discussed, the expressionistic, non-literal forms of dance and music can sometimes hold multiplicity in a more expansive and inclusive way than text. And thirdly, there's less development time required. As everyone knows, adapting canonical works into new musicals can take an unimaginable amount of time. Our current show will have been the most economically slimline yet in terms of the amount of development time it has had. That might sound surprising, given that devising is, of course, an iterative, evolving process. But we have found that we've been able to contain our development periods more easily, and we'll be using more rehearsal time to continue to develop the material, unlike with a musical adaptation, where we have had to finalize and prepare scripts and scores in advance of rehearsals beginning. So there we go. As I began by saying, the best description of the work we do is as a catalyst. In our current climate, with theatre more at risk than ever of being underestimated and underfunded, and communities more in need than ever of ways to unite and heal, we hope that our work continues to catalyse closer connection between theatres and their communities. Innovative, holistic, intersectional approaches to community must become central to how we think as a society if we are to create sustainable ways of looking after each other. Thank you for having me here today to share some of our passion for this vision of what theatre can be, and a particular thank you to Professor Kim for holding on to that programme. I'd like to finish, as I always do, with this image of company members Cheryl and Sade, embodying what has become a bit of a mantra for us, the idea of unity, there it is, unity through radical joy. Joy can be seen as something light and frivolous in the world, but to us, it is one of the most muscular forces, and we try to create as much of it as possible with what we do. So here's to the power of theatre and to the power of radical joy. Thank you very much.